agus inis I cheachta Michael Fitzmaurice.
First of all, Minister, I think it's the first time we're in a debate, and I want to wish you the best of luck in your new position. In the line of credit unions, in the credit union bill, I note that the representative bodies of the credit unions have wrote to or emailed every TD, and there is a few pieces that they're concerned about, and I would ask you to be proactive with your team on that to address their concerns, because while I know that credit unions, there's plenty of them around Dublin, what a lot of people mightn't realise is that down the country, and I just think of my own hometown in Glenamaddy, there was a Bank of Ireland and there was an Ulster Bank, and both of them are gone. And only for the local credit union that amalgamated into a bigger one, and it's actually St. Charles Credit Union now. I think it's something like 115 or 20 million in savings. It's a fairly large one. And the services that they have provided, especially to our elderly people, where you go into a bank and it's a machine that was in front of you for lodging. And for some of our elderly people, while some of them may be able to work with sound, some of them may never have engaged with it or the technology, and there wasn't a friendly face. And I think I always say that the credit unions have taken the place of the banks in the 70s and 80s. When you went in, there was someone to talk to, but nowadays, I see even St. Charles Credit Union in Tuam, they have a person like a spotter that if someone comes in and they're not comfortable or whatever, they walk over to them and make them at ease, which is awfully important for people to make sure that they get their business done or whatever. There is, as Marion has highlighted, certain things in the reserves. That credit union, and look at, we have Ballinasloe Credit Union, we have Roscommon Credit Unions, there's a lot of amalgamations going on, which gives them more flexibility in being able to give better services, because you have more of a pool of money put together. That's a good thing, but the one thing we never need to lose is the local identity of a credit union, because one day, a long time ago, it was a few local people that got together when we hadn't the facilities, and look at some of the buildings, they done them up voluntary. They got together and they pooled together to basically give a service to people in local areas, and some of it was for small sums of money, maybe to keep a family going or to keep food on the table or whatever. And I think we should never forget that ethos, because I keep drumming it at them in the likes of the local credit union, St. Charles. I keep drumming it at them to never forget, because there's one fear you have: the bigger credit unions goes, and I know I'm for that, to be honest about it, that they'll have a bigger pool and that they'll be able to offer mortgages and offer more services. But the fear you have is down the road in 5 or 10 or 15 years' time, that then they'll say, actually, that one now in that village there isn't doing enough, so that they'll go down the road of the banks, which we don't want to see, because of the community and the voluntary ethos that's involved in it. There's a lot of opportunity as well that credit unions, in fairness to them, they offered money for the housing crisis, that they have a lot of money in reserve. But one thing they were getting fleeced with, and I think this should be addressed, the clearing houses for money. And unless you can try and put a lot of them working together, the clearing houses for checks or for money was charging them a lot to clear the money. And basically the banks had a lot of control on it, to put it very simple to you. And that was causing a problem for them for a good while. And on top of that, they got screwed really when interest rates were down to, say, when the interest rates were very low, and we all love low interest rates, but for money on deposit, they were paying within the banks for someone, and that's why they had to restrict the amount of savings that some people could have in them, some of the credit unions, because they couldn't afford to be paying out on one end and not getting anything in on the other. I think that And my understanding is that the credit unions are doing sort of the government-backed, say the SCBI and all those, and that's important that they can offer the same services. And I saw that credit union where Glenamaddy, the two banks disappeared. I saw Dunmore up the road from it where there was a Bank of Ireland gone. And they turned round. Now, look at where to do a bit of pushing at them. But in fairness to Mick Culkeen and John Dial and John Murphy, we kept at them that we needed a bank link outside the places, and now they've gone down that road and they're giving that service. They put in 4 bank links in the last few months. And these are the little services that we need in the rural areas, as well as when the Bank of Ireland is gone and Ulster Bank and all of the different banks or AIB leave smaller areas, you still have a farming community in a lot of those areas, and you have a business community, and you need a facility to be able to borrow money. And in those facilities, like I see there's like the Cultivate loan now, which has been very successful, but we do need to have them in a situation where if a farmer is buying a bit of land or if they're doing sheds or whatever, the biggest problem for a lot of the credit unions is the restriction of the ratios of what they can put out, as being highlighted by Marion. I'm not going to rehash everything again. That's a big problem, and I think we have to try and make sure that it's facilitated, that they can give us the facilities of a lot of the banks. I'm not talking about millions and millions. I'm talking about for the person that wants the mortgage of the 2 or 3 or 300,000, or the farmer that wants to buy the bit of land, the 20 or 30 or 40 acres, or put up a block of sheds or whatever, that they are, and in a lot of cases they are accommodated, and I want to say that very clearly. But if you have more and more people engaging with the thing, you will need more and more, you need a small bit of flexibility. I would be rather critical of the likes of the Central Bank, some things they've done to credit unions, because, as being said earlier, we thought in 11 or 12, like with the stories that was out, that the credit unions were going to be, there was money, I think it was 250 million or something, that they put aside, no one else. They weren't like the banks where the taxpayers had to bail them out. And I think something like, off the top of my head, 25 or 30 million that was used out of the whole lot. But the rest of the money was kept. Now, you will be able to tell me, Minister, what it was kept for, but it was kept, I think, for doing something with the Central Bank or getting the credit unions into some new phase that they were doing. But I believe that look at down the country in most towns now, they're the only banking system we have. And you know, and I know, I would say, anyone that's involved in business or anything like that, you know that they have to have facilities there. They've gone to the cards, great job, it's working well. They are open, you know, in fairness to them, a lot of credit unions are even open on Saturdays, and even some of them open on Sunday. But Saturdays, like the service they give to people is incredible. And the other thing that I love about them is that there's someone to say hello to you. It's not a machine that's looking at you and press a button or whatever. But we need to focus on that. Take basically the weights on their shoulders that's pulling them back a bit, take it off them. And I'm not saying that we go mad and no regulation or anything. I'm not saying that. But we need to give them the opportunity to be able to fight in the ring with the other banking institutions, that they'll get a fair crack at the whip. And the other thing, and I don't know how we solve this one, in the line of the savings or monies that they have, the likes of the banks were able to send back, transfer across ECB and all that, where it wasn't costing them. And the credit unions need some facility to be able to have something that, as I've highlighted already, the low interest rates, that isn't, you know, basically screwing them up, and that they have to go charging people for holding the money, because what they done last year and the year before, and it did turn some people off. There's no point in saying it didn't. There was people that there was limits of, be it 40,000 or be it 80,000 or whatever, and different credit unions had different rates, and the people were left in that they had to go back to the usual thing, going to the bank or whatever. and I think that needs looking after. So I'm not going to go talking here all evening. I welcome anything that's proactive for credit unions. I would ask you to engage with the different reps that's in it. I would also urge the likes of the Central Bank to loosen up a bit with the likes of the credit unions, because it seems to be like, you know, it's nearly like you're the bold child. They keep picking on one the whole time, but the others can get away with murder. And I don't believe in that. I want to see them thrive. And I believe that they're the only banking system that we will have in rural Ireland with the way decisions are made. Yes, there'll be online banking for the bigger ones, for if business or whatever wants to use it. But I'm talking about the day-to-day person that uses the credit unions for their, basically their full livelihood from beginning to end. They have car loans, they have tractor loans, they have all the different types of things, but that we make it amenable and workable for them. So I want to thank you, Minister, for listening. Thanks.